Good afternoon everybody, I'm George from Pass with George. Today what I'm going to be showing you is some of the tell me questions that the examiner might actually start off with on the driving test. So in the driving test there's a show me and tell me questions. The show me is something that will actually be performed on the move, so actually whilst you're out on the drive with your examiner. It might get you to do one of several tasks that are available, for example operating the horn or putting the driver's side window all the way down and back up, which you will do whilst the car's actually driving along the main road. The tell me questions are a series of questions, and the examiner will ask you one of these questions at the start of your test. It could be something like, could you tell me how you would check that the brake lights were working? Okay, but one of the or several of the questions could also involve actually opening the bonnet of the car and being able to tell the examiner how you would check some certain features under the bonnet of the car. So what I'm going to do today is show you on my car, a Toyota Corolla, how you would actually open the bonnet and where you're going to look for in the engine bay. So the first part of the tell me question here is actually locating and opening the bonnet of the car. So as you're approaching the car, the examiner will already introduce themselves to you and will have told you something about the test. You know, it's 35 to 40 minutes of driving, etc, etc. So the examiner might use something like, we're going to start off with a tell me question. What I'd like you to do is open the bonnet of the car for me. So now I'm going to show you how to do that. So in my car, it's located within the driver's side. Some other cars it might be in the passenger side. Okay, so I'm just going to show you that now. So as you can see in my car here, it's located just down there. So all I'm going to do is pull that forward, and you will have heard the bonnet itself actually release. Now that's just the initial release. There is also a secondary release that I'm going to show you. It usually lines up with about the centre of the bonnet. So in my car here, you can see the T for the Toyota. That's about the centre. And in here, all I have to do is slide my fingers in now. You can probably, I know it's in shadow, but you can hear as I move a catch to the side. So that's the catch that I'm going to use to lift the bonnet. So all we do is put my fingers in, I'll move the catch over, and that lifts the bonnet up for me. Now the black stick that you see there, that's actually what we're going to use to hold the bonnet in place. So it just releases off, and then there will be a point for it to actually go in the frame. So in my car here, you can actually see it's got a nice little arrow showing you where it needs to be placed. So I'm just going to pop that in there now. Okay, so that's it nice and secure. So we now have the bonnet open, so we're able to complete the tell me part that the examiner is going to ask you. When you do open the bonnet, the examiner is going to say something like, it is warm under there, so please don't touch anything within the engine bay, or words to those effect. Obviously the examiner's not wanting you to actually check the oil or check the coolant level, but they're wanting to know that you can tell them where you would check it in this car. Okay. So one of the things that the examiner may ask you to tell them about is the coolant level and how you would check the coolant level. In my car, you can see two coolant bottles, and it's the ones here with the pink fluid. Okay, that pink fluid is a coolant, okay, which helps to keep the engine cool in the summer and stops it overheating. Okay, so if we actually look at the top of the bottle, we can also see this little symbol here of saying that it's hot, do not touch. Okay, so if we think about hot, cold, then we can tie that symbol into the coolant. Okay, when you're telling the examiner, what you're looking for is on the side of the bottle, there's two marks. Okay, there's a minimum and a maximum, or a low and a high, and you're just looking for that level to be between the low and the high. Another question that the examiner might ask you is, can you tell me how you would check the oil level? So in this car here, you can see this yellow bit here. Okay, so this yellow is the top of the dipstick. Okay, so what you would do is you would tell the examiner that you would remove the dipstick from the engine, wipe the bottom of it, place it back into the engine, pull it back out, and you'll be looking for the oil to be sitting between the minimum and the maximum. Okay, again, the examiner's not wanting you to pull out the dipstick and actually check the oil, they're just wanting you to tell them. The last thing that the examiner might ask you to identify here is tell me how you would check the brake fluid, okay? So the brake fluid usually sits up towards the top of your engine bay. Not always, and sometimes up here you might have things like power steering pumps depending on the age of your car, okay? The fluid on it is usually yellow, okay? And you can identify between the minimum and the maximum, okay? Now, this car as well, it's not easy to actually see the top of the bottle, but some cars you actually can. So if you can maybe just see, if you excuse the webs that are actually in the car, it shows how long we've been off the road. If you can actually see the top of the bottle, the little symbol, now that symbol there looks like the warning sign on your dashboard for if the parking brake has been operated. So again, the same as a coolant bottle, there's a symbol on there to look out for, okay? So if you see that symbol for the brakes, then you know it can be associated with the brakes. There's that symbol for you again. So that's the under bonnet part of the tell me questions that the examiner may ask you, okay? Bear in mind there is 14 tell me questions that the examiner can ask you, so this is one of a possible 14, so you may not actually have to open the bonnet. Once you're completed with that though, you will need to close the bonnet, and you'll need to be able to do that safely. So again, look at this with your own car or your instructor's car, depending on which one you're using for your test, and also get to know the car that you buy. So what we're going to do is we need to release it here first. So I'm going to lift this slightly. Okay, so now you can see this stick is loose. Okay, I'm just going to take that back up to the point that holds it. I'm going to secure that in place, so that's it nice and secure. I'm just going to bring the bonnet down, place it there, and then just give it a nice, bear in mind, watch your fingers that you don't get it trapped, and that's the bonnet nice and secure. So thank you for taking the time to watch this video about the tell me questions under the bonnet that the examiner might ask you and how they relate to my car, the Toyota Corolla. As I said in the video, depending on whether you're using your own car or whether you're using your instructor's car, get to know their car and where you would locate the bonnet catch, where you would be able to locate the coolant, the brake fluid and the dipstick for the car. If you've got any questions, feel free to give me a message. Take care, stay safe.